Folks, you're not going to believe this. Straight from the heart of Russia, Izvestia, yes, that major newspaper, just spilled the beans on something huge. We're talking about a whopping 28 countries itching to join BRICS. And let me tell you, it's not just any old news. These countries are queuing up either as full members or partner states, and this scoop comes right from the insiders who were at the BRICS Foreign Ministerial Council in Nizhny Novgorod. Imagine that, 28 nations. And guess who's also peeking through the window wanting in? Palestine. They're looking to step in as an observer or a partner, despite not being fully recognized globally. Now, hold on to your hats because we're going to dive deep into who these 28 are and what they're bringing to the table. This isn't just about swelling the ranks, folks. It's about pumping up BRICS muscles, broadening its reach and clout in the global economy, and shaking up the international order. We're going to dissect what each of these countries stands to contribute, starting with Azerbaijan. Did you know Azerbaijan's economy in 2022 clocked in at about $18.8 billion? That's right. And let me tell you, it's practically swimming in oil and gas, which makes up about 90% of its exports. When we talk big numbers, we're seeing 92.5% of their total exports dominated by mineral fuels and oil. But that's not all. They've also got fruits, nuts, plastics, you name it, exporting to big players like Italy, Turkey, and Russia. Moving over to Bolivia, their GDP hit around 49.3 billion in 2023. It's a treasure trove of natural resources. We're talking natural gas, gold, zinc, and let's not forget silver and soy products. Their natural gas and gold exports? Through the roof, bringing in billions. And who's buying? Countries like India, Brazil, Argentina, Japan, and Colombia. Now let's swing our focus over to Honduras. With a GDP of roughly 31.728 billion back in 2022, this country really punches above its weight through its exports, tallying up to $13.1 billion. Their top exports? Think stylish, knitted or crocheted clothing and accessories, pulling in a cool $4.4 billion. And don't forget the coffee, tea, spices raking in $1.7 billion, plus electrical machinery and equipment at $1.3 billion. Their export scene is bustling, majorly fueled by textiles and agriculture, which make up a hefty slice of their economic pie. Now, folks, do me a solid here. If you're liking what you're hearing, smash that like button. It's right down there. And while you're at it, drop your thoughts in the comments. We thrive on your feedback, and it helps us spread the word. Thanks a ton. Moving on to Cuba. Oh, Cuba. Their economy clocked in at about $17.35 billion in GDP for 2020. It's a unique setup there, mostly under state control, but they still managed to pull in around $1.9 billion from exports in 2022. Their hot items? Rolled tobacco leading with $275 million, followed by nickel mats at $163 million, and not to overlook zinc ore, hard liquor, and raw sugar. These goods primarily find their way to markets like China, Spain, Germany, Portugal, and Switzerland. Cuba's rich in natural resources, with tobacco and sugar as their golden tickets, alongside notable exports in nickel and medical products. Yet, they're grappling with significant economic hurdles, a hefty trade deficit, and heavy reliance on a few key export goods and markets. Their imports are also substantial, needing everything from poultry meat to soybean oil, sourced from a diverse group of countries including Spain, China, the US, Brazil, and the Netherlands. So as we can see, both Honduras and Cuba are crafting their economic narratives with distinctive strategies and challenges. Heading over to the Middle East, let's zoom in on Kuwait, a country with a hefty GDP of about $175.3 billion in 2022. Talk about oil-rich. Kuwait's economy practically runs on oil, with mineral fuels, including the black gold, accounting for a massive 94.5% of its total exports, valued at a staggering $85.5 billion. But that's not all they're shipping out. Kuwait also deals in organic chemicals, plastics, and even dabbles in exporting aircraft, spacecraft, and construction materials like salt, sulfur, stone, and cement. Their top trading buddies? The United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, China, India, and Iraq. On the import side, Kuwait loves its luxury, cars, phones, gold jewelry, medicine, you name it, mainly coming from China, the US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. With a trade surplus of $63.8 billion in 2022, it's clear the oil sector's king. Yet, there's a catch. this heavy reliance on oil can be a bit of a gamble with the ever-fluctuating global oil prices. Kuwait is on a crucial path toward economic diversification, aiming to stabilize its future. Now let's take a trip to Morocco. With a GDP of around $133.91 billion in 2022, Morocco's economy shows a vibrant tapestry of sectors contributing to its growth. The kingdom exported goods worth $46.7 billion in 2022, with fertilizers topping the charts at $7.7 billion, showing a sharp 34.6% jump from the previous year. Vehicles, electrical machinery, and clothing also make up significant parts of their export portfolio. With Spain, France, Brazil, India, and Italy as primary export markets, Morocco plays a critical role in supplying a varied array of products globally. However, it's not all smooth sailing. Morocco faced a significant trade deficit of $30.4 billion in 2022, ballooned by a 37.7% increase due to its heavy reliance on imported mineral fuels, machinery, cereals, and plastics. Lastly, let's talk about Uganda. This East African nation saw its GDP hit about $49 billion in 2022. Uganda's economy is notably diverse, with agriculture still the backbone, employing around 68% of the workforce and contributing 24% to the GDP. Coffee is the star export, bringing in $753 million in 2022 alone. But that's not all. Fish products, raw sugar, and cocoa beans also contribute to the export mix. However, Uganda's biggest export by far is gold, which totaled an impressive $1.92 billion in 2022. Each of these countries, Kuwait, Morocco, and Uganda, showcases a unique economic blueprint with diverse challenges and strategies. As potential new players in the BRICS fold, they could bring a whole new dimension to the bloc, enhancing its global economic footprint. Continuing our exploration of global economies gearing up for potential BRICS membership, let's focus on Uganda. This East African powerhouse is weaving an intricate economic tapestry. With the United Arab Emirates, India, Hong Kong, Kenya, and Italy as its top export destinations, Uganda sends out substantial quantities of agricultural products, which significantly contribute to positive trade balances in certain categories. The country's imports are equally vital, dominated by vaccines, packaged medicaments, cars, motorcycles, and broadcasting equipment, mainly sourced from China, Kenya, India, the UAE, and Tanzania. The service sector, contributing a hefty 42.6% to Uganda's GDP, includes burgeoning activities in transportation, tourism, and business services. Additionally, the anticipation of oil-related investments and the expected commencement of oil exports by the end of 2025 signal promising economic boosts. Shifting our focus to Chad, with a GDP of approximately $13.67 billion in 2022, it's clear that the nation is predominantly driven by its oil sector. This sector alone accounted for 95.3% of Chad's total exports, valued at $3.7 billion. While the country is heavily reliant on crude petroleum, it also exports oilseeds, cotton, and gums and resins, finding main export markets in Germany, China, the UAE, and France. Chad's import needs are centered around vaccines, jewelry, electric generating sets, broadcasting equipment, and packaged medicaments, with significant trading relationships with China, the UAE, France, the USA, and Belgium. Despite its wealth in natural resources, Chad faces daunting economic challenges, including an overdependence on oil and a need for greater economic diversification. The agricultural sector remains crucial, contributing to the economy with exports like gum arabic, sesame, and cotton. Turning to Sri Lanka, its economy displayed a GDP of around $88.7 billion in 2022, marked by diversity across various sectors. As the world's 89th largest exporter, Sri Lanka brought in $14.8 billion from exports in 2022. Leading the charge were knit or crochet clothing and accessories at $3.4 billion, followed by non-knit clothing and accessories at $2.1 billion. Tea, rubber, and rubber products, along with gems and precious metals, also made significant contributions to the export ledger. These sectors underscore Sri Lanka's economic versatility and its strategic importance in global trade networks. Continuing our globe-trotting economic examination, let's delve into Sri Lanka, Equatorial Guinea, and Eritrea, a trio of countries each with unique economic profiles and challenges. In Sri Lanka, the economy showcases resilience through a robust export sector, despite a challenging $4.5 billion trade deficit in 2022. The island nation's top export destinations include the United States, India, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Italy, vital for its thriving textile and apparel sectors. These industries dominate Sri Lanka's export profile, contributing significantly to its economy alongside tea and rubber products. However, imports also play a critical role, with refined petroleum topping the list at $4.2 billion, followed by light rubberized knitted fabric, special-purpose ships, and packaged medicaments. Import partners such as India, China, the UAE, Malaysia, and Singapore underscore the country's reliance on foreign goods, particularly in the energy sector, which continues to pressure the nation's financial management. Turning to Equatorial Guinea, the nation's economy, valued at approximately $12.3 billion in GDP for 2022, heavily leans on the oil and gas sector. This sector not only fuels over 80% of its GDP, but also tops its export list with crude petroleum and petroleum gas as the leading commodities. The main export markets include Zambia, Spain, China, India, and Italy. Before the late 20th century discovery of substantial petroleum and natural gas reserves, agriculture, highlighting crops like cassava, sweet potatoes, and cacao, was the backbone of Equatorial Guinea's economy. Today, while oil and gas reign supreme, agriculture, alongside the fishing and timber industries, still plays a vital role in the livelihoods of many residents. Lastly, Eritrea presents a contrasting scenario with its economy primarily driven by mining. With a GDP of approximately $3.3 billion in 2022, significant exports include zinc ore, gold, and copper ore, which together account for over 98% of the country's export revenue. Eritrea's primary export markets are China, the UAE, South Korea, Japan, and Madagascar. However, its imports, which include other sea vessels, sorghum, wheat flour, and refined petroleum, indicate a reliance on a variety of essential goods to meet the domestic needs. Delving further into the economic landscapes of Eritrea, South Sudan, and Nigeria reveals a complex interplay of challenges and opportunities that shape their development trajectories. In Eritrea, the economy faces numerous hurdles, with a GDP of approximately $3.3 billion as of 2022. A significant challenge is the high dependency on imports for essential goods, stemming from a limited domestic production capacity. This dependency is further complicated by ongoing regional conflicts, which undermine economic stability and growth prospects. Despite these difficulties, agriculture remains a cornerstone of the economy, employing a significant portion of the population. Key agricultural products include sorghum, barley, beans, dairy products, lentils, and wheat. Additionally, Eritrea's extensive coastline along the Red Sea offers untapped potential for the fishing industry, presenting an avenue for economic diversification and growth. Shifting focus to South Sudan, its economy, also valued at approximately $3.3 billion in 2022, is heavily reliant on the oil sector. Crude petroleum dominates its export profile, accounting for 99.4% of total exports and making South Sudan extremely vulnerable to global oil price fluctuations. This economic dependency is compounded by environmental challenges such as floods and droughts, which disrupt the agricultural sector, another vital component of the economy. South Sudan's major imports include cars, knit t-shirts, and packaged medicaments, with the United Arab Emirates, Kenya, and China being key import partners. Nigeria, with a significantly larger economy valued at around $400 billion in 2022, continues to be driven predominantly by its oil and gas sector. The country exported goods worth $77.7 billion in 2022, with crude petroleum and petroleum gas being the main exports. This heavy reliance on oil and gas exports makes the Nigerian economy susceptible to international market dynamics. However, Nigeria's trade is robust, with Spain, India, France, the United States, and the Netherlands as primary export destinations. The import spectrum is equally diverse, including refined petroleum, wheat, cars, and medical supplies, with China, Belgium, and the Netherlands as major import partners. Folks, let's dive deep into the economic giants of Southeast Asia and beyond, starting with Indonesia. Now, Indonesia isn't just any country. It's a powerhouse with a GDP hitting around $1.29 trillion in 2022. This places it right at the top of the charts in Southeast Asia. And let me tell you, their economy isn't playing a one-note tune. It's as diverse as America's heartland, ranging from agriculture to high-tech. In 2022 alone, Indonesia exported goods worth nearly $230 billion. Imagine that. And it's not just any products. We're talking major moneymakers like palm oil, ferroalloys, petroleum gas, and copper ore. These are the commodities that keep the world running, and Indonesia's got them in spades. They ship these goods primarily to major players like China, the US, Japan, India, and South Korea. With China alone snapping up over 23% of these exports, you can see just how crucial these markets are to Indonesia's wallet. Now, switching gears to Turkey, another economic titan, but this time a bit to the west. Turkey's economy soared to about $1.24 trillion in GDP in 2023, ranking it as the 17th largest globally. That's not small potatoes. Their economy is as robust and dynamic as any, with a strong foothold in manufacturing, agriculture, and services. In 2022, Turkey's exports stood at a whopping $262 billion, with top sellers including refined petroleum, cars, and even jewelry. Yes, jewelry. And who's buying? Well, countries like Germany, the US, and the UK are on the top of the list. Turkey's not just an exporter, though. It's a big-time shopper, too. In 2022, they pulled in imports worth $350 billion, including essential goods like machinery and steel from places like Russia and China. What's key here is Turkey's strategic growth, focusing on sectors that keep it strong and competitive on the global stage, from textiles to transport equipment. So, what does this all mean for us here in the US? These countries are not just surviving, they're thriving. They're playing the long game in global trade, impacting economies far and wide, including ours. All right, let's turn our attention to a couple more dynamic economies, starting with Pakistan. This nation, folks, had a GDP of approximately $347.7 billion in 2022. That's a serious number, reflecting a truly robust economic structure. Pakistan's economic engine is powered by an array of sectors, but let me highlight something here: textiles. They're not just making clothes, they're crafting a significant chunk of their economic pie, with products like linens, men's suits, and jerseys, bringing in billions. In total, Pakistan's exports in 2022 amounted to about $31.3 billion. Apart from textiles, they're dealing in rice, leather goods, and even sports equipment, crucial sectors that not only fuel their economy, but also meet global demands. And guess who's buying? The United States, China, the UK, Germany, and the Netherlands. These major markets are absorbing a diverse range of products from Pakistan, folks. Now, on the import side, Pakistan's shopping list includes machinery, electrical goods, and iron and steel, primarily from countries like China and Japan. This shows a balanced approach to trade, keeping the economy vibrant and well-oiled. Moving over to Senegal, a country you might not hear as much about, but is no less impressive. Senegal's GDP stood at around $31.3 billion in 2022. Now, what's fascinating about Senegal is its economic structure. Services lead the way, followed by manufacturing, agriculture, and other industries. With an average growth rate of 4.9% over the past decade, this country is on the move, fueled by significant reforms and backing from giants like the IMF and World Bank. Senegal's export portfolio? It's rich and varied, featuring gold, phosphoric acid, and seafood. In 2022, their exports totaled about $6.2 billion, with key markets including Mali, India, Switzerland, the US, and China. These nations are pivotal in absorbing Senegal's offerings, from precious metals to essential agricultural products. On the flip side, Senegal's imports hit around $10 billion, including refined petroleum and rice, with major trading partners like China and France. The country's economic future looks even brighter, with the upcoming oil and gas industry expected to turbocharge growth thanks to strategic investments in infrastructure and hydrocarbons. For us here in the US, watching these nations isn't just about observing, it's about understanding our place in a tightly knit global economy. These countries are not just trading partners, they are potential catalysts for global shifts in economic power and resources. All right, folks, let's talk about Algeria and Bahrain, two countries with unique economic narratives that are making waves on the global stage. Starting with Algeria, this North African powerhouse boasted a GDP of about $244.5 billion in 2023. Now, here's a country that's really riding the wave of its hydrocarbon sector. We're talking oil and gas, folks. Over 90% of their exports come from this sector. making up about 40% of the GDP. In 2022, Algeria shipped goods worth a whopping $58.6 billion, with petroleum gas and crude oil topping the charts. Italy, Spain, France, the good old US, and South Korea, these are the big buyers, soaking up Algeria's prime exports. But it's not all smooth sailing. Algeria faces some hefty challenges like high unemployment, particularly among the young and women, and a heavy dependency on those hydrocarbons. They're pushing hard, though, to branch out, boosting agriculture, manufacturing and services, and even tweaking laws to attract foreign dollars and cut through that bureaucratic red tape. Now, on to Bahrain, a bit of a contrast here. This small Gulf kingdom had a GDP of around $47.1 billion in 2022. Unlike some of its neighbors, Bahrain's got a pretty diverse portfolio. They're big into aluminum and petroleum, sure, but they've also got their fingers in a lot of pies. In 2022, Bahrain's exports totaled $22.3 billion. Raw aluminum and refined petroleum were the heavy hitters. And who's buying? Well, we've got Saudi Arabia, the UAE, the US, Japan, and India on the list. Bahrain's import scene is just as lively, with goods like iron ore and gold coming in from China, the UAE, and Brazil, among others. What's really powering Bahrain forward, though, is its solid financial sector and a real push to move away from relying just on oil. They're plowing cash into aluminum, expanding their petroleum sector, and pumping up infrastructure to keep growing. So here's the takeaway for us folks here in the US. Both Algeria and Bahrain are navigating some tricky economic waters with their own strategies. Algeria is doubling down on diversifying away from oil and gas, while Bahrain is leveraging its financial clout to build a more varied economy. As these countries adapt and grow, they're not just changing their own games, they're shifting the dynamics of global trade. And let me tell you, that's something every American should keep an eye on, because what happens there impacts all of us here, especially in how we conduct international business and diplomacy. All right, let's dive into the economic landscapes of Bangladesh and Belarus, two countries with very different stories to tell in today's global economy. Starting off with Bangladesh, folks, this country is making quite a mark. In 2023, its GDP soared to around $460 billion, making it a heavyweight in South Asia and a beacon for developing market economies worldwide. Now, the real muscle behind Bangladesh's economic prowess? Its textile and garment industry, the largest export sector that is dressing up the world, quite literally. Ladies and gentlemen, you won't believe what I'm about to share. It's truly fascinating how countries like Bangladesh are making waves on the global stage. In 2022, this nation, known for its vibrant textile sector, skyrocketed its exports to a whopping $64.2 billion. Imagine this. Your everyday t-shirts, the cozy sweaters you love, and those fancy suits, all these are flowing in from Bangladesh to not just the US, but also to places like Germany, the UK, Spain, and Poland. But it doesn't stop there, folks. While they're selling a ton, they're also buying big, $82.5 billion big. Their shopping list? It's got everything from petroleum to raw cotton. Now, shifting gears to Belarus, a country that's been hit hard with sanctions and geopolitical strife. Despite these hurdles, their 2022 GDP stood strong at about $72.7 billion. Their export list might surprise you, from potassic fertilizers to refined petroleum and even tractors. Yes, tractors. And they're trading with some pretty significant players like China and Poland. On the flip side, they're pulling in products worth $41 billion, including cars and high-tech medicaments. Folks, these numbers aren't just digits. They tell us a story of resilience, global trade dynamics, and how even under pressure, countries like Bangladesh and Belarus hustle to keep their economies buzzing. What do you think? Should the US see these countries as mere suppliers, or is there more to this global marketplace ballet? All right, let's dive deeper into the heart of Eastern Europe with Belarus. Now, this country is a powerhouse in its own right, with a robust manufacturing sector that pumps out everything from machinery to vehicles. But that's not all. Belarus is also a big player in agriculture, exporting top-notch dairy, meat, and vegetable oils. Even though they face economic challenges, they've got a knack for keeping a positive trade balance in fertilizers and certain agricultural products. They've got their strategy dialed in, but they're still playing catch-up in sectors like vehicles and electrical equipment, where imports are eating into their wallet more than exports. Now, let's hop over to Kazakhstan. This country is sitting on a treasure trove of natural resources, and it shows. In 2022, their GDP was about $59.7 billion, but their exports? A staggering $98.7 billion. We're talking crude oil, gold, copper, you name it. These goods mainly find their way to markets like China, Italy, and the UK. But it's not just about exports. Kazakhstan is also importing big cars, tech equipment, even planes. Their economy is like a well-oiled machine, heavily reliant on oil and gas, which makes up over half of their exports. But here's the kicker. They've seen an insane growth in gems and precious metals, skyrocketing by 1,186% from the previous year. Let's shine a spotlight on Nicaragua, a place that might not dominate the headlines, but has a story worth telling. In 2022, this nation had a GDP of $50.67 billion, ranking it as the 111th largest exporter globally. That's pretty impressive for a country off the main track. Nicaragua's top exports include a mix of traditional and niche products, from knit clothing and golden treasures to essential electrical machinery and aromatic coffee. But here's where it gets interesting. They're pushing big numbers in non-traditional exports like textiles and gold, showing that even smaller countries can pivot and thrive in the global market. Their main partners? Close neighbors in the US, showing that good relationships really do matter in business. But it's not all smooth sailing. Nicaragua faces its share of challenges like a significant trade deficit and heavy reliance on foreign aid. Yet, they're striving to attract foreign investment and boost economic stability. Now, moving over to Syria, a country whose challenges are of a different magnitude due to a devastating civil war and heavy international sanctions. In 2022, their economy was marked by a GDP of just about $8.97 billion. Despite being the 164th largest exporter, Syria continues to send goods like olive oil, nuts, and even spice seeds to markets in the Middle East. However, the economic landscape is tough, dominated by imports like tobacco and plastics. It's a tough scene, but amidst the ruins, there's a beacon of resilience. Iron and steel exports from Syria grew by a staggering 552%. Folks, these stories from Nicaragua and Syria aren't just statistics. They're about real people and economies trying to make it against the odds. For us in the US, it's a reminder of the complexities of global trade and the importance of economic policies that consider these realities. As we look at these countries, let's think about how America can lead with strength and compassion, ensuring that our actions help foster stability and prosperity worldwide. What do you think, folks? Let's take a deep dive into Thailand, a vibrant dynamo in the ASEAN region. In 2022, Thailand boasted a whopping GDP of approximately $526 billion, making it a heavyweight in Southeast Asia, second only to Indonesia. Now let's talk exports. Thailand shipped out goods worth around $312 billion, with major hits like office machine parts and integrated circuits topping the charts. Their cars aren't just running on local streets, they're cruising in markets across the United States, China, Japan, and beyond. But Thailand isn't just about sending products overseas. They've got a hefty shopping list too. From high-tech machinery to vehicles and even iron and steel, they're investing in big-ticket items mainly from China, Japan, and the US. This kind of trade dynamic makes Thailand not just a regional, but a global player in the market. Now, folks, Thailand isn't just resting on its laurels. This country is all about strategy, from boosting its industrial sectors like electronics and automotive to enhancing petrochemical production. And let's not forget the tourism and foreign investment sectors, pivotal to their economic strategy. Despite the global economic roller coaster, Thailand is pushing hard to diversify its economy and sustain long-term growth. So, for all the folks back home in the US, this is a call to look at Thailand, not just as a vacation paradise, but as a serious trade and investment hub. The potential for partnerships and growth is enormous, and with their strategic moves in the global marketplace, Thailand is clearly positioning itself for the future. How about we think about the opportunities lying out there? Let's not miss out on engaging with such a dynamic part of the world. Now let's turn our attention to Venezuela, a country that's rich in petroleum resources, but has been riding through some really tough times. In 2022, Venezuela's GDP hovered around $51.3 billion. But despite having a treasure trove of oil reserves, almost 20% of the world's proven crude oil reserves, their export figures tell a different story. Their total exports dipped to about $4.3 billion, showcasing items like scrap iron and petroleum coke. But folks, that's a significant drop from the golden days. Venezuela's major buyers include big players like China, Turkey, and even the US, but the tale of imports is just as compelling. They're bringing in essentials like soybean oil, corn, and rice, mostly from nations like Brazil and Colombia. Now, this is a country that's been hit hard by hyperinflation and significant trade deficits, making everyday life there a constant uphill battle. Despite the economic turmoil, there's a glimmer of hope. The US has eased some sanctions, and there's a push to ramp up oil production, which is expected to spark some growth, projected at 5.6% in 2023 and another 5% in 2024. But let's be clear, folks, the road to recovery is steep, and Venezuela is still grappling with a severe humanitarian crisis and widespread poverty. For us here in the US, Venezuela's situation is a stark reminder of the volatility in global oil markets and the geopolitical chess game. It's crucial we understand these dynamics as they affect global stability and our own energy prices. So, what's our move? Should America play a role in stabilizing such regions, or is it better to watch from afar? Folks, let's talk about something impressive: Vietnam's economy. In 2022, Vietnam wasn't just playing in the minor leagues. It was a major contender in Southeast Asia, with a GDP hitting about $399 billion. Now, that's not just a number pulled out of a hat. It mirrors their total exports, which also clocked in at around $399 billion. What does Vietnam export, you might ask? Well, they've got a lineup that could fill a warehouse. Electrical machinery and equipment leading the charge at $87.1 billion, followed by computers and other machinery at $54.1 billion. And don't forget about footwear at $33.7 billion, knit clothing at $21.5 billion, and even furniture and other goods at $21.1 billion. Now, where are all these goods going? The United States, China, Japan, South Korea, and Hong Kong are eating it up. These aren't just random partners. They are key players in the global market, making Vietnam a linchpin in the network of international trade, especially in electronics, textiles, and machinery. On the flip side, Vietnam's shopping list includes electrical machinery, more computers, iron and steel, plastics, and petroleum products. Their main shopping buddies: China, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and Thailand. And here's the kicker. Vietnam didn't just balance its books in 2022, it celebrated a whopping trade surplus of $11.9 billion. Now, that's how you do business. Looking ahead, Vietnam's not hitting the brakes. Experts are predicting a GDP growth of 6.5% in 2023 and even higher at 6.8% in 2024. This isn't just growth, it's a sign of a booming economy fueled by a rebound in exports and smart economic reforms. They're shaping up their business environment, making it sleeker, more attractive for investment. This, my friends, is how you play the long game in global economics. So, what do you think? Does Vietnam have the strategy to become an even bigger player on the world stage? Let's discuss. All right, folks, let's dive into Zimbabwe's economic landscape from 2022. This African nation, often under the radar, pulled off a GDP of about $27.3 billion, with its veins deeply rooted in mining and agriculture. Think about it, a small yet formidable player in the global market, with exports totaling around $8.41 billion. That's no small feat. Now here's where it gets golden, literally. Gold was the superstar, bringing in a staggering $4.48 billion, making up over half of Zimbabwe's total exports. Following closely were nickel mats and raw tobacco, alongside ferroalloys and diamonds. These aren't just commodities, they're the backbone of Zimbabwe's economy. And who's buying? The United Arab Emirates, South Africa, China, Belgium, and Mozambique were at the front of the line. These countries know value when they see it, scooping up Zimbabwe's best, from minerals to agricultural products. But every story has two sides, doesn't it? Zimbabwe's shopping list included refined petroleum, delivery trucks, and even soybean oil, with a total main import bill of items like electricity and nitrogenous fertilizers, and their main shopping partners. South Africa tops the list, followed by China and Singapore. Now, this isn't just numbers and trade. It's a glimpse into a nation striving amid challenges, pushing its economy forward through its rich natural resources and strategic partnerships. So as we wrap up this discussion, think about the resilience and potential of an economy like Zimbabwe's. How does it fit into the larger puzzle of global trade? Thank you all for tuning in. If you found this insight into Zimbabwe intriguing, show some love. Hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Your support means the world to us and keeps this community growing. Don't forget, there's more to explore right on our channel. Check out the next video. It's waiting for you right on your screen.